this time. A lot of moreness, wholesome of moreness actually comes out from the story. So it is always more than enough to explore it throughout the week. This is what we do when we just share the story once a week, and for the whole week we can discuss, and it's still not enough. We can discuss it more and more, and it still get value, still can get value and moreness out of it. But at least a whole week, I have seen this and experiences. And these stories is a profound leverage to extract value and connect it to, and yeah, and associate it, not only connect but also associate it with our own lives and see where we can apply this. And maybe sometimes also that way and when we were in that situation where we can actually be more. Sometimes we do, sometimes we just not able to, or we become reluctant or just hesitate a bit, and then later on realize that, oh, that was the time I could be more. That story is not only giving us an opportunity to see what is more, but also giving us some opportunity to reflect on ourselves and in our own lives, and see where in the past we were more and where we were not being more. We could. There are so many things in my life when I see that, oh, I could choose this, I could do more. It's not a regret, but it's just a pure awareness, not coming with any sadness or regrets or any stress, nothing, but just the realization, just the understanding, pure awareness. Oh, that was the situation. Oh, I could do this too. Wow. Okay. I don't get into that. Okay, what if I have done this and blah, blah, blah. No, but just pure awareness, just pure acceptance, pure receptivity that, oh, okay, yes, that was the situation. Because every single incident in our life, if we could have this ability or this opportunity to do more or to be more in those situations, just having this understanding is enough to change our lives for the future and in the now.
Yeah.
Just having this awareness is enough. At least for me, it is doing wonders for me. When I go back and see that, oh, I was in that situation, not exactly same, of course, but in my own capacity, in my own circumstances, some sort of similar situation where I was in that position or in that situation where I could do more or I could be more. In some situation I did, which is very good to know and be aware of. And in some situation I was not, which is also good to be aware of. That, okay, yes, that was a situation. In those situations, I could do more. Now, by just going through that or being aware, by being deliberately aware of this situation, I am remedying or preempting for the future situations where I can actually do more and be more. And this is what change is for me. This is what true transformation is for me. At least right now, I can say this is what real transformation means. Not only you just start doing things right now in this moment and prepare yourself for the future, but also we go into our past without having any stress, any regrets, any obligations, sadness, or any sort of negativity, but just being able to observe things without having any kind of judgments there. Just pure awareness. It's a profound practice and exercise to be prepared for more or to be more. This is what is happening for me. I'm really hoping and working for that I will continue this in my life. And from now on, and it is still happening, but from now on, situations and circumstances and incidents in my life will bring a whole lot of positive moreness, because I am determined to be more and to receive more.
Yes, me too. Me too. Me too. Oh, most awesome, Beena. I love whenever we start the lives, I get to hear Beena. And that is a great joy. I get to hear you, Beena. Oh, it's just awesome. That's awesome. Most wonderful. Is Norma here?
Hopefully, yes.
Yes, Norma is here. 240923. 240923. What is that date, Norma? 24. I don't know if it's a date.
17. It's a 17.
2409. I don't know. Good morning, Janet as well.
Hello, Janet. Hello, Norma.
Yeah,
And hello, everyone
wonderful.
else also.
Yes, yes. Just in case. Hello, Tarsava.
Oh, yes. Hello, the server.
Yes, Tarsava said that every now and then, he listens when he's working. He can't interact because he's working, but he listens sometimes. So that was great. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
This is so
Oh, just
wonderful.
checking it is today. Oh, I see. All right. But today is it?
17th.
Yeah, it's the 17th of 23. So it's
And month. And this September
yeah.
9th.
So it would be 17/9/23, the way the British write it, which is more sensible. They put day, month, year, which is a progression. Anyway, I don't know why the Americans have to put the month first. Kind of make an odd progression, but so be it. Everybody else in the world, they do it the other way around. They go day, month, year. All right, let's go read. I love what you're saying about moreness, Beena. This is crucial to connect to moreness. That's the whole point of the origin story. It's not only to bring back the key points, but to connect to the moreness involved. So it's not just the story and what the story says. The story itself is written in such a way that you have to extract the moreness. Yes, it does make it clear, but it's also you have to extract the moreness. Plus, of course, they're the takeaways. And now we're going to see that. So last week we heard the story itself, yes, the origin story, and we ended at the end of the origin story. And Biella had a little extra add-on, just for the delegate's sake, because they don't have the full context, and not necessarily the skills either for the discernment involved in unraveling all of the detail. And then now they come to do takeaways, right? Now, in this case, repeat backs, typically they will do repeat backs and takeaways of key points. A repeat back will just be like, for instance, in a conversational way, let me see if I understand you correctly, or I take you to mean, and they say, here's my summation of what you're saying, or here's how I understand it, here's how I see it. And then you repeat back to the person who shared what you understood them to have said. Not what it means to you. That's a different thing. But what you understood them to have said in your language, right? So now you've come to really grasp that and know it. And you're checking. You're checking to see that you comprehended accurately. Then the takeaway is what it means to you, what it means for you, how you understand it, and in terms of how you're going to utilize it, and what you are taking away from it that you want to put into yourself, build into yourself, add to yourself, right? Because if it's something that you're already doing, that's not part of your takeaway. I'm already doing this, but there's a little extra. Yes, okay, that's what and that extra, that moreness, that always comes, even though you have the same thing repeated. When you look at it from multiple perspectives and you're constantly doing that and you're extending your understanding, you're going deeper, like Beena was saying about moreness, you connect to that moreness. So now we are going to now we are going to get into takeaways, which is cool. And also just on a little point of fun, All right, maybe I'll say afterwards about the takeaways. Well, it doesn't really matter. I think maybe it adds to it to know it ahead of time. The takeaways are real. The characters that I've created are not, but the original takeaways, yeah, are from real people who read the origin story. I read it to them, and I said, you know, give me your takeaway on it. What do you think about this? What do you feel? Right? There were various ways in which this came about, and this is what they responded. Right? And so their responses here are very, very, very real. And I want to emphasize this, for especially for Norma. You were saying about, that I typically write nonfiction and this is fiction. And in this case, you get to see where the nonfiction part is, because even though the story is a fable and a myth, it's dealing with very real truths. But these responses to it, this is very real. It's like all of Cornelius's dialogue. It's all real, all 100% real. So there's a combination here, and the whole point of the story is to take that which is theoretical potentially, or at least hypothetical rather than theoretical, uh, that could be a maybe, and put it into a story form that makes it feasible, probable, realistic. And now we're seeing these interactions and reactions. Very real, very real. I mean, Beena and I, we share this type of interactivity every day. And Beena comes on Zoom every day. Anybody who comes on Zoom and has a chat will quickly see that the same type of interactivity is very real. I call it Nobelia-Living, this type of interaction where we discuss, we learn, we take further, we do repeat backs, we do takeaways. What did Beena just share? That was a takeaway for her from what we've been doing in the past days, years, and months, right, Beena?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So these takeaways are very, very, very powerful. Now, some of her takeaway may have included some repeat back also. Yeah, sometimes I don't know if it in this case, but it can be, right? They can
Mostly,
go
mostly,
together,
mostly,
right?
yes.
Right.
Mostly,
So
yes.
there's a lot of power in this process of repeat back and takeaway, and incredible. And of course, one practices one's communication and expression. I mean, look at Beena now. Every day she comes fluidly, and shares and connects, and it's not an issue. It's not a problem. It's a joy. I mean, it's beautiful to hear Beena doing this, right? But this is because of practice. Just that's it, pure practice. Yeah, and getting familiar with doing this. Now, there's the practice of doing takeaways, but there's also the practice of, in this case, public speaking. And particularly, Venus added a nuance to it, that she does it unprepared. She doesn't go and rehearse something to say, doesn't have it written down when she's reading it. It's completely pure off the cuff. She's speaking from her heart. And when you get used to doing this, expressing your inner truths, it becomes an easy thing to do, because you get clarity, and you've clarified what you want to say, and you just share it. And it's easy to speak, right? So many, 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 many powerful benefits. Like Beena can express herself now. It's a phenomenal thing, and the change from when you started till now, it's profound, right, Beena? Huge change.
It's a big, huge, unbelievable kind of change for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Because some
incredible.
is even just not for a second, not for a minute, I prepared myself. The moment I say
Exactly.
hello and welcome, absolutely I can say, because it's a prayer call right now, but that I have no idea what I'm going to say.
Yeah,
Even when I'm saying hello and welcome,
yeah.
till then, absolutely zero idea what I'm going to say.
But you
And
have
I'm putting
trust,
myself into that. I
right?
am actually jumping into. So it is
Exactly.
actually this whole I am living like that. Jump off the cliff and grow your wings while you're falling.
Yes,
We
yes,
can grow our wings.
yes.
This is the real magic of this. That to have this trust, we can grow our wings while we are falling.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
need to
yeah,
we need
yeah.
to do
It's very
this
powerful. It's
100%.
a trust in your own competence, your own
Absolutely.
abilities, even though you
Absolutely.
cannot consciously say what it is. It's a trust in your
Exactly.
abstract moreness, because we cannot hold all of our abilities in mind, the exact skill, the preciseness. We can't do that. We have to trust that we'll be able to do, and the competence to do based on our trust. This is something that we can remember. So it's very powerful. And we practiced this. We went into it very specifically and deliberately with Beena's painting and with Beena writing and writing poetry, the same skill of
Yes.
trusting the
Oh, yes.
inspiration to come. And it
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
Yes.
it's just you have to train the brain to do it. Right? It's breaking habitual patterns of thought, assumptions, expectations. These are all part of what we do deliberately, part of Way-of-Impeccability, and particularly part of the Moreness project, that exquisiteness of self.
Just few months, 3 months, 3 or 4 months ago, till I was super reluctant to do these type of things, and I had no idea how to start because my paintings are also like that. That I mostly I just have a glimpse, or sometimes even not a glimpse. That's it. But still, just push me to the point where I learn to trust that it will come. That was the one. That was the whole thing. He did. He actually just pushed me. Mean, I just trust and keep. Okay,
Uh,
just start doing. Okay, what is even just like okay, yes, just draw a line or just a dot, and then just keep following, keep
yeah,
following it.
yeah.
And that trust that it will come, that trust that I can do this. This is the
Yes,
point where we. This is the
yes,
most difficult point to reach. I guess in at least in my life, this was the most difficult
yeah.
point to reach. And still just pushed me till that point. And after that, of course, trust itself, just hold your hands and then you
Right,
start flying.
right. It is the ability to take that first step into the dark, knowing
Yes.
the second step turns the light on.
Yes.
That first one is in the dark, right? It's a step
Yes.
of complete trust. But if we do it enough times, we know that the second step will take on. Does it mean that the first step is easy? No, it's always an uncertainty, but it doesn't matter. We've got that backup trust that we trust it will happen. And you're taking a chance. It's a risk, but that's the nature of trust. It involves risk. And when we are able to willingly undertake risk, knowing that we can deal with what comes, no problem. We shift, we shift, we shift. It's a profound shift. It's such a simple little tiny thing to overcome within us. That fear of being wrong, fear of mistake, fear of looking silly, all those silly fears, right? That's it. All right. So if you do end up, so what? If you don't have ego, the risk, the thing that happens is like not really a big deal. It's fantastic. All right, let's start our reading. Biella gets into story mode. Well, we're not story here now. We're actually just we're getting to the takeaway, which is very nice. Takeaways are very important, very important. Plus, there's a little extra that comes by way of the interaction with Marco and well later Kaljun and Aki and Nora, how they interact with Camillus and Ursula. It's very cool. And again, the contrast, the difference, right? It's very cool. And we get to see some of Nora. We get to see some of Nora. And we also get to see that innate modesty that is built into aspirants. It takes a while to overcome because you know you've got a lot to learn. And so it's there, right? Even though they can be exceedingly sophisticated, it's instanced, instanced sophistication. It only happens in particular circumstances. It's not all the time. But they're working on making it all the time. All right, here we go. The origin story, chapter 10, part 2. One may wonder wherein lies the value of restating what has already been said. It's valuable because what has been said is valuable. The restatement and repetition is a way and a means to lock in that value, to let it come in from as many angles as possible. To let it come in from as many angles as possible. Hmm. Hmm. Very powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. I actually want to put in that repetition there to let it come in from as many angles as possible. All right, here we go. A number of the new nobles stood up. What's happening? One of the delegates asked. They are presenting themselves for participation in a takeaway, is my guess, Ursula said. She looked at Vermont and Marco for confirmation. Yes, said Marco. This is a large group, so they will wait for the lead, Biella in this case, to select those to share their takeaway. Usually in the smaller groups, it just happens naturally, with the one who has the most pressure going first. That also makes a difference to what comes next. The takeaway of one usually affects those who follow, and many will feel their internal pressure to speak resolved by someone else's takeaway. It's a marvelous process. We get to see it in action now. Marco tried to temper his eagerness, but it emerged despite himself. A petite new noble made her way to Biella. Biella beamed with such intensity. She shone like one of the angels in the story. It was her dear, dear friend Illuminia, whom she had known for a very long time. Biella rose again to explain. For those of you that don't know, this is Illuminia. A surprised murmur emerged from the delegates. Almost everyone else knew Illuminia or of her. Illuminia is a marvel, for she was named Illuminia completely independently of the origin story. But it doesn't end there. Illuminia squirmed a bit, anticipating what was to come, but she set herself stoically, recognizing the necessity of it. Biella continued. The marvel of it is that Illuminia is every bit the representation and manifestation of Illuminia in the story. She was so long before knowing the story. And yes, Illuminia, it's most appropriate you start the takeaway. Biella beamed radiant love at her. Marco added, Illuminia's original name was Elan Illuminia, with Elan being the family name, but put first, as is the custom of her birth world. That would now make her noble Illuminia back then. He grinned in the semi-dark at the appropriateness of it. Illuminia took a moment, shifting far away, going over the story inside. Tears glistened in her eyes. She'd been visibly moved by the origin story. Beautiful was all she managed. After a few moments, she added, Here is my takeaway. Everything is good for us. You're in full agreement. We need to remember to keep it in our awareness. What made me sad is we have to learn. Just diplomacy would be a good aid to saying the same things. Not the diplomacy of politics, but the diplomacy of an ethical person. The diplomacy of kindness. No, not kindness, because kindness could be misconstrued. Rather, the diplomacy of supreme tact, for it's the diplomacy of truth. The words flowed from Illuminia, unedited, the way of the takeaway. To let connects, what connects connect, and associations associate. To clear the path for what was in the heart, what had been touched down deep. A little sorting and shifting required to get to that point of resonance. A profound process, not an explanation, but a journey. A journey into the essence of the being of another. Illuminia continued. Needs to be completely clear. It has to be truth. That's important. People have no confidence and self-esteem because they have no truth of their own. They simply claim the words of others. You can use someone else's words, but they have to be internalized first, be made one's own, not just as an argument to win or nonsense like that. We need the truth that is. How do we know? We just do. We know when the understanding transcends right and wrong. The fabric of it is pure. Illumina stepped towards Biella and hugged her fiercely. Illumina addressed Biella directly now, deep within her takeaway. She'd been moved. It connects to tact, because maybe then it wouldn't be so sad. The truth. With tact and true diplomacy, we can assimilate and approach the hard truth and avoid the sadness which accompanies the awful truth. So for me, the origin story is profound, not because it is kind or tender, but because it alleviates the harshness of the truth with tact and diplomacy. It's essentially approaching the perspective of sharing from the perspective of being an unbiased witness. That sharing is profound in its purity. I think a big thing is also understanding, to present truth without expectation of how it's to be received. If they understand or not, it's like rain falling on fertile and on barren ground. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's still important it rains. Illumina paused to gather herself, clarifying inside what had come. Even tact and diplomacy can be removed. The key is the lack of bias, the lack of preconception, the lack of expectation. Pure truth just is. It just is the all. There is no more and no less. All we can do is share the pure truth without attaching valuations, without ascribing right or wrong, simply sharing the pure truth of it. Illumina's emotions spilled into the crowd. So powerful were they, many had tears as well. Most of those who had been standing sat down. Biella hugged Illumina tenderly, like she was the most precious being in the universe. And to Biella she indeed was. Illumina took Biella's hands in hers and kissed them ever so tenderly, graciously. Thank you, Biella, she whispered as she returned to her seat. Biella motioned to an aspirant, also petite, Aby, to share her takeaway. Aby had a distinct feline quality to her. She exuded a vast kindness, yet with a touch of predator. Aby had grown up in a world before it had joined the ag, only to speak common ag late in life. She joined Biella. Yes, what came to mind is their perception, she began, that they see, but begin a process of denial for what she states is the core of truth, that it has the deepest challenge, even to the very best of heart. Does that make sense? And truthfully, it is perfect. What I say is more of my mind continuing it. Yet I do not know, for you have laid down a good twist of true reality. This was the way of the takeaway. Sometimes it started rough. The new nobles knew. They knew not to clean up what came out, just to let it out raw, unfiltered, straight from the heart. It was important to start with the deepest connection, then let it flow. Through that flowing, it would clarify and reveal the truths and connections which were hidden. A marvelous process. Sometimes the process needed a bit of help. AB had stopped, just stopped. When a new noble came to an halt, it was never an end, but part of their way. They knew stopping opened them to input from the universe. That input would lead appropriately to where they needed to go. Forcing things did not help. That merely the forcing of what was already known onto the mystery of what could have been. Biella asked, AB, seems like you started a thread of what the origin story connected with for you. I'm most keen to hear the rest of your thread. The new nobility understood the power of questions. Sometimes all that's needed is the boost of energy resulting from the simple interest from another, an energy providing motivation which might otherwise be lacking. AB brightened, running the back of her thumb across an eyebrow. Then the same with the other hand. A graceful, delicate gesture. Pure AB. Yes. All right, here it goes. The more open the eyes, the more is revealed. The many dimensions that do not layer, but go at once together, the Alpha and Omega. Thus, she paused, her attention having been momentarily caught by something moving beyond the crowd. I feel from it, even one who would have the best means to validate the truth, the nature of man, the flesh. They have such a way of twisting that even the surest can be led to question the truth. Does that make sense? Yes, Biella said gently. More, please. I mean, explain it to yourself as much as to me, Biella prompted, sensing Abby was having some trouble connecting. Deep truths could be elusive. It becomes the energy, and it brings sadness. Abby faltered, troubled. It can, yes, Biella said. Abby withdrew within, contemplating her response, providing Nora an opportunity. She'd noticed Camelia's missing much of the subtleties of Biella's interaction. Nora had a fine sense of reading people. She could never, of course, be absolutely sure, but whenever she checked, which was as much as possible, her perceptions were almost always valid. Camelius had reacted in easy-to-see ways, at much during the evening. His lack of reaction just as telling. 3 simple words, yet so much in them, Nora half whispered at Camelius. She kept her eyes fixed on Biella and Abby, sharing her perceptions, as one did, when appreciation was too much to keep to oneself. Huh? Camelius grunted. Her inflection, the rhythm of her words. Look at her face also. Is she commiserating, offering sympathy, or in any way condoning Abby's reactions or sentiments? No. Yet she understands what Abby means. Look closely. Biella's stance is tall and sober. Those eyes, that slight unfocusedness to them. She's looking ahead at the conversation. She's seen where Abby is headed and is waiting for Abby's internal struggles on this issue to come together. It's not that complicated, really, but because of the intensity of the emotions involved, it's preventing Abby from dealing fully with the matter. Oh, I see. Yes. Camelius looked at Nora if she was a different person. She didn't say, it can, then pause and say the yes separately. She said it together. It can, yes. Expressing the acknowledgement as a something that does happen, but is not necessarily the only way to react. She's being reassuring, saying this reaction of sadness can happen, yes, but it does not have to happen. Biella is exquisitely communicating. She comprehends the entirety. She understands Abby's reaction, but does not necessarily think it's the only reaction or one that's preferable. Nora's grin glowed through the darkness. I learned so much just by watching Biella say the simplest things. Yes, now that you mention it, that is so, Camelius added, mumbling to himself. And so much I must. Nora nudged Camelius gently with her elbow, indicating with her head. Abby, surfing from within, was about to speak. Look at this. My decision seemed not so logical with some of my family. Abby frowned. Evidently an old issue which had surfaced. Sometimes those could be complex. But does it have to? Biella asked, hoping to involve other parts of the mind. That often helped. In fact, they rather think I have something to hide. So part of the pain of truth is just that. The truth is not always accepted, no matter what. And when good people question it, even the right choices can cast doubt on the best choices. Avy stopped again, searching. There is a meta-logic, a meta-truth, in which it all makes sense. Yes, Biella asked. Yes, down the line I connect with a type of Joseph Campbell way, Abby said, making a seldom used reference, unusual, for the new nobles always made every effort to internalize what they came across, making it their own, connecting to the abstract truth inherent in what they had encountered. References were usually only made if the point was particular to the person being quoted. It wasn't now. But Abby was connecting to a time before she knew of the new nobility, to the style and ways of that time. He states life may become chaotic, Abby continued, and much of young life may seem disconnected. Yet as we grow older, there is harmony, and it's all there for a reason. Abby reached for more. Biella filled in the pause, directing her comment at the delegates, never wasting a moment's opportunity. It's exactly that connection to symbol, to the grand abstract. That's the core of the new nobility. Abby picked up again, finding her rhythm as a counterpoint to Biella. And we were addressing a subject, good and evil. Biella kept the rhythm going. It's why the new nobility love myth and fable and make up their own. One of their greatest accomplishments as a group is the expression and creation of personal myths, bringing it to the collective society. For in the creation of a personal myth, we gain the opportunity to extend ourselves into possibility. Baby. And I understand this spiritually, Biella. And yes, good and evil is a part of it, yes, baby. Bring to water, but can't make it drink. That there will be a parting. Sometimes we can do nothing about. She said it almost as a poem, or more accurately, in the terms of the new nobility. It's awareness and lack of awareness, Biella clarified. Abby deep in the world of her childhood now. I am not suggesting some will burn in hell, but when they deny the truth, it brings hell. As if she had just heard Biella. Precisely, Biella added softly, as if speaking to the Abby who was not there. Awareness cannot be forced. It has to come of its own. When it's forced, it becomes a program and cannot be true awareness. She leaned into Abby, adding even more gently, and yes, lack of awareness is hell. Abby did a small stretch with one leg out behind, something coming loose. Yes, and the more truth is denied, the harder the heart to feel the truths in sight of deception. Abby in so deep she was losing some of her grammar, but it didn't matter. The essence of it all she wanted to express. Abby laughed suddenly, a small burst of laughter. We are taught more often not to recognize spiritually, internally, but with the tactile senses. Well, sometimes I see things unravel. I do so in disbelief. I have touchstones, the reactions of the animals. Yet, with the family, namely my mother, she has her way too, and sometimes it's an agenda. So I tried to wade through that, Biella added. The agendas and boxes of others can be very, very limiting, but it's what the myth is geared towards, a rearrangement of how we perceive others, to see all others as instruments for the enhancement of our awareness. Everyone, each and every single individual, no matter what. Yes, came out as a delicate, amused hiss from Abby. I really loved it because it brought an element the story lost over time, how she went through the realness of emotion, corruption, but came back through another's innocence. Amazing regain for a Biella seemed to have lost where she was heading. Biella felt the loss in Abby. What you have said, Abby, reminds me of Illumineer's takeaway earlier. Perhaps Biella trailed off deliberately, hoping Abby would find her thread again. Abby responded, listening to what she said. Even the very language, the day's energy, the world's energy, can be changes with other languages and mere time passing. Yes, very good. Abby was connecting internally. Much seemed to be happening inside her. Yes, beautiful Abby, so beautiful. Does it bring you some resolve? Biella asked tenderly. It does, Abby said with what sounded almost like a purr. I guess part of what happens in these events occurs, as these events occur, is sadness. First, to waste time on things that will mean beans later. But next, how many with love get involved and life have better things. So what evil does is slow the ticking of time, diverts it and sends it all into a type of delay towards a better day and bliss. Sadness too, because change is hard. I wish he would just go away, but the more he returns, the more change I may have to make. And in many ways, much of home is good. What I have sought a long time, what the home lacked were people having harmony, just the people and truth. So much sadness that no matter what, I lose something. And it's not material, but of heart, my serenity. AB had found that touchstone within, her release coming out in a fluid flow. She'd found her equanimity again by connecting the truth to the truth which had been stirred. Yes, AB, yes, Biella whispered, feeling there may be more. I'm listening. But AB was done. Her body underwent a complete change. She'd been physically relaxed. Now she seemed ready to pounce. Anyway, all you shared has helped ever so much. I thank you, she finished tightly. Oh, such a pleasure. A huge, huge pleasure, Biella said. What a joy. AB had found that touchstone within. Repeat. AB suddenly added, very wise words, so well spoken, truly heartfelt. And with an energetic leap, she sprung from the low stage and was back in her seat. End. The origin story, part 2. Beena?
Sorry, I was on mute and I was saying hello, hello.
I was waiting for you. Hearing Norma, Janet, I'm keen to hear your takeaways of the takeaways, or if you have takeaways on the origin story, but I assume you would have shared those last week. Either way, but your takeaways of the takeaways would be very cool. What are you thinking, Beena?
I was just absorbing the story. It's so wonderful.
It is, yes. It is, yes. It is. What I particularly like is the roughness of it. As an author writer point of view, you seldom see such rough and sometimes even clumsy, maybe even disconnected dialogue, right? Because, well, one, it's tricky to read, and two, it is inordinately difficult to create. This realness, this is how people communicate. This is a share. I never changed this dialogue one single word. Not AB's. Illumineers, this was verbally given to me and not in text, so I couldn't copy it. So I had to just catch snatches of it, right? But I just caught most, that's why there's sometimes those ellipses there. But still, I did get it mostly exactly as said, but there's some parts that were a little bit missing because I couldn't keep up and fast enough, right? But I did in real time. I was writing what was being said. Oh, thank you, Janet. Yes, it is very moving because you hear in both Illumineer and AB how they are deeply touched by the story. And that's the power of the takeaway. They get to come out and share. Look, all sorts of family drama and stuff coming with her mother and with this guy in her life for AB and the sadness of not having real people in her life and so on. Yeah. Oh, brilliant, Norma. What were you thinking? Let's hear. Norma, please share, please share, please share, please share. Yes, I find these takeaways very moving. Well, these two particularly, They are intensely more. We come to more takeaways now, and they shift because that's the nature of it. As the takeaways go on, each successive takeaway is affected by the ones that came before. And some of those that were feeling that same kind of emotion, maybe, or had a similar feeling, okay, I get it. Yes, that like AB was touched by the interactivity in the story between Sebastian and Illumina, and not having that in her life is bubbled up and come up, that she can't interact that way with her mother, with this man in her life who was abusing her, essentially, or was. Right. Uh, but now others say, yes, I realize, and their takeaway might simply be a simple one. Say, hey, you know what? I realize I have to shift and change things. Yeah. Now, AB's takeaway was one that was, well, at least in the story, the person was dealing with that real, because they are not a new noble or an aspirant, right? So they were going through this, and that's why I shifted it for the character was dealing with it in the past. But it works that way too. Sometimes things come up and we have unresolved issues from our past, and we need to go and grow up in the past, as Beena is so fond of saying. And it's a big point, a very big point that Beena brings to it. We do need to grow up in our past, so that by going back into the past and going through that, we internalize and react and respond differently to what we did then. And we shift the takeaway from that past incident, right? And we can come to resolution, even though the issue then was not resolved. And, the people may have moved and never got resolved. Let's just say the mother died, never got resolved. Doesn't matter. We can still resolve it for ourselves by responding to it from our me of now, not with the me of then. Yes, the me of then can grow up. All right, a takeaway, Norma, is when you listen to something and you say, what can I take away from this with me, right? Like, I'm going to leave now and I'm going to take away, like I'm going to put stuff in the little bag that I want to take away with me, that I'm going to utilize later, right? Things that I want to build into me, things that I want to make a part of me, things that I want to become, things that I want to remember through living them. Now, I don't need to remember, right? So that's the takeaway, that which is valuable, what is of essence, right? It's like you can't take the whole thing away and you have to just pick and choose, because not all of it connects and resonates. Maybe sometimes all of it does, but typically some we already know, or some didn't click or connect, but some points. That's what the takeaway is. What's useful and valuable to you, right? And look, in this case, both Illumina and AB's takeaways. Illumina's takeaway focused on communication. She said what was important to her to take away from that was that there are different ways in which we can connect and interact, especially with those close to us. We can get that diplomacy of tact, right? She said first of kindness, but of tact and of realness, and stating the realness in a nice way. There was a lot of points there in Illumina's takeaway. I have to go through it specifically. We'll do this tomorrow. That she mentioned, the things that were very, very real and powerful for her that she realized. Now, at the time, for the actual person that was saying that, this was a huge confession, actually. Yeah, I'll share about that tomorrow. So takeaways. Yes, I give takeaways on well, the takeaways are for me, but I share sometimes. I'll do a repeat back, which we're now also both together. But yes, mostly when I share, like when you say on your past, I share back what I pull out of what you said. That's valuable, that's meaningful, that makes a difference, that connects, that's more, right? I connect to that moreness. It's a very powerful, very, very powerful point. Very, very powerful. So wonderful, wonderful. Great question. Great question. Great question, Norma. And I love that you ask it, because you're also asking on behalf of many others. Some haven't listened to everything and they don't know the backstory, the history. So we have to ask. We have to ask. So that's a great point. That's a great point. Some like Tasavos only recently started listening. Maybe in the past we've talked about takeaways, but you would never heard that. So yeah, very cool question. Very cool question. Yeah. Oh, you said yes, I have done that. You have done that with my past. Yes. Very important to do this for the past, to go back into our past and relive it with the me of now. Right. And then we grow up in our past and we see, oh, well, I didn't really deal with that very well. I was a bit of a brat, or I was childish, or, naive or innocent or just foolish. Right. In our past, we're all of those things. We need to grow up in the past because we've grown up now, but we need to go and respond, react to those incidences in the past with our me of now, and thereby bring that resolution and grow up then, because otherwise we carry the reactions of then with us, and that's no good. Those can be corrupting. Yeah. And we see this a bit with AB. Now, what I also like is AB as an aspirant here, and because we show the roughness of it, right? And not as fluid, not as condensed, not as succinct. And also, she goes into the past, doesn't really do a takeaway from it for the present. But she's learning, and the roughness of the expression as well. But that's the nature of it too. The takeaway, sometimes points are complex, points are difficult. She's not put off by the roughness of her expression, and that's very important. We need to stumble a bit. We need to be a bit awkward sometimes in order to make space for things to come. Because in that stumbling and that awkwardness, you're progressing, you're moving, you're shifting, you're making space for things to come. If you're afraid to stumble and be awkward, you stop, and you stop the process. No good, right? So we need to be aware of this. Even internally, sometimes people are afraid to face a little bit of awkwardness, uncomfortableness, or even, of course, awful truths, potentially pain. But you can't be. You have to get into it, right? We have to do it with love, not blame. Precisely. But when you go back with your me of now, with the point of understanding, you say, how can I blame myself? I was an nincompoop. I was unaware. That's it. End of story. Yeah. Yeah. I love takeaways and repeat backs. Not only because they bring me value, when I hear those of others, like Beena's sharings, always repeat backs and takeaways. And sometimes they also, extrapolations, sometimes they're also creations, intuitions, etc., right? Understandings. But still, in some way, it's a takeaway of what you were thinking, right? It brings that condensation. Yeah.
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 Ah, it's just a realization or an understanding that takeaways are a big mechanism or an antidote to your ego, at least for me, because we don't assume that
Yeah.
okay, this is what we are. When we do the takeaway, we pay attention. We pay exquisite attention to what people are saying. Otherwise, we cannot share our takeaways. we cannot do the repeat back, especially repeat back class takeaways. It's a perfect combo for understanding and awareness, and also it's an antidote to ego, because in
Yeah.
the beginning it was, yes, I do understand, what do you mean by like I need to repeat that. Then comes the ego
Ah,
thing that, okay, we assume and we follow those assumptions. So it is a profound mechanism for me to
yeah.
not
Yeah.
get into any ego nonsense and just be thorough and follow the steps,
Yeah.
just to get more understanding. That's it.
Yeah. 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 Very powerful. Very, very, very powerful. Very, very powerful stuff. And also, just that share of Illumina in terms of expressing via the story what she wants. Now we're getting in a little bit in the deeper takeaway here, but the difference between Illumina, the character, and the person that was expressing those words, and there is a difference, right? I've made the character into a new noble, and they're expressing from a new nobility point of view, so it's taken one way. But when we take it from somebody who wants this in their life, where it's really a confession of what they want, what they don't do, what they miss, what they should do, it becomes a profoundly different. I mean, this was capital H hearing. When we hear what was going on there, it was profound. It was a confession originally, rather than a typical takeaway. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes.
It's really amazing.
Yes.
Really amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. I agree, Janet. Very moving. Very moving. When we hear pure emotion coming from people, pure sharing, pure truth, and when we hear others being touched deeply, it touches us deeply, because we are empathetic beings, some more so than others. Yes. There was a lot in that story, Janet. Lot, 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 lot. Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, I like that. It's amazing. It's amazing all in one. I love that. I love that, Norma. It is amazing. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. Beena, any more thoughts?
This is, I think that sometimes, most of the time, actually, it is good to just stop it on the profound point and say, okay, let it
Yes.
sink in. So I'm just doing.
Yes.
Thank you, Norma, for sharing your takeaway. And this
Oh,
is the big point right now for me: the
yeah.
importance of takeaways.
Yeah. Yeah. Super pleasure, Janet. I love that you were here. I love
Oh
that
yeah,
you're here, that you get to hear
missing
this.
you, Janet. Missing you.
Yeah, very much. So, yeah, yeah.
Don't
But you,
want to
yeah,
stress you,
yeah,
but it was just missing
yeah,
you. Yes.
yeah. Things go as they go. Things go as they go, as appropriate. Always as appropriate. And doesn't mean we don't miss you. Very cool. Yes, very cool indeed. I agree, Beena. We'll end it here unless either Janet or Norma, you have something to share, something more to share. I agree. I agree. We'll save the in-depth the capital R reading discernments and takeaways for tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. 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 Brilliant. I will be there soon. I miss you too, says Janet. Oh, very good, Janet.
Oh yes.
Very
Oh
good.
yes.
Yes. And for
Hearty
all
connection.
those
Hearty connection.
listening, like Tasaba, who don't get an opportunity to respond or connect, thank you. And it's cool. And I love that you're here. And it makes a difference. It adds to what we do. It's not why we do it, but it adds to what we do. Right. So please, if ever you get a chance, come and show. Many SNS. I will be there soon. Oh. I read something and then it was gone. All right. No worries. We'll leave it there for today. Yeah. Short and sweet, crisp
Yes.
and clear, beautiful and
Yes.
pure.
Oh yes.
We'll make a little poem out of it there. Beautiful and
Yes.
pure, of that I am always sure. Just to put
Mm.
some rhyme in it. I am in these cases. I absolutely am. All right, brilliant. Bye-bye, Janet. Bye-bye,
Okay.
Norma. Love you
Bye,
both, and
Dharma.
see
Bye,
you next
everyone.
time.
And from tomorrow, we are going to explore the part Syl have just shared, and we will go into more detail, and we all will get a chance to take away what we really want to take it
Mm,
away from that
mm,
story.
mm.
And for me, it's a it's a glimpse of a new way of being as I write my new moon text, that the time has begun, the era has begun now, where we all will have a chance to live more, to be more. That is the era
Yes.
that has begun, and I'm just connecting it to this one, and just waiting patiently for that time where we all can be who we really are
Mm,
and who we
mm.
really want to be.
May the universe bless us with more. All
Yes.
caps bonus. Okay.
Yes.
Bye for
Yes.
now. Thank you, Sil. Bye for
Yes.
now.
Yes. Wonderful. Bye-bye, everybody. And meeting for all.